Well, welcome back at long last to the Segue Says podcast. My goodness, it has been a long time, and believe me, the podcast has never left my heart or my thoughts. I've been wanting to get back to it, but things have been a little crazy. For those of you who've been around long enough, you may remember I did the big 100th episode thing, and then I did a couple after that. And then I moved, and then I was in my final year at Berkeley, and some of you may know, some of you may not. I actually graduated from Berkeley College of Music last month. But my final year of academic studies kept me very busy and run quite ragged. In the best possible way, mind you, but unfortunately, the podcast, among other things, had to be put on the back burner for a time. But in all that time, I was still thinking of segues and finessing ones that I'd already thought of and preparing for how the podcast would return. And so while I can't promise that it's going to become a weekly thing again right away, that's my ultimate goal, but I can't promise it right now because there are too many uncertain things. It is alive and well. It's just been on a well-earned vacation. So I'm going to try to film a few tonight if I can, just to give myself a bit of a buffer. Now, for our first one back, this is a fun one. Well, I like to think they're all fun, but this is a particularly fun one, involving one song that we've used before in this podcast and one that we haven't. The song we've used before is Cry Love by John Hiatt, which we had previously paired with Turning Page by Sleeping at Last. But the new song we're pairing it with this time is a song called A Better by Jennie Abrahamson, who's one of my favorite contemporary artists, a Swedish pop artist. And so it's an unlikely pairing for sure, but when you hear the songs, you'll understand why. A bit of a disclaimer, first of all, both these songs on the albums are originally in C. And when I did Cry Love last time in this podcast, it was a couple of years ago, my God, I did it in C. But I wanted, these two songs should really be in the same key for this segue to work. And I was thinking, okay, and obviously, I'm a male singer with a lower voice than Jennie Abrahamson, who's a female singer. And generally, the average rule when you're trying to transpose a female vocal to a male vocal, if you're trying to do the same part, is take it down a fourth or a fifth. And I was thinking, okay, so I could put both songs in G or F, and I tried that, but it kind of took some of the intensity out of Cry Love, and then I said, okay, I can just do it in C, but sing A Better an octave lower. But then that took some of the intensity out of A Better. So I've kind of settled on this compromise of B flat, which is one full step down from C, because Cry Love is a little easier to sing in that, especially because my voice is still in recovery. That's another thing that's happened while the podcast has been away. I've still been working on rehabbing my voice, and it's definitely getting better. I'm gigging again, which is a lot of fun. But it's still not quite where the end goal is, so I'm taking it a bit easy. So it's easier to sing in B flat, and while B flat version of A Better is still pretty high, higher than my range, it's easier for me to sort of skate through it and kind of fake that I can sing confidently in that range than it is in C. It's amazing how much a half step or a whole step can make a difference in that kind of thing. So, on to business. These songs share a characteristic that makes them very unique, and if you had seen the episode with the Cry Love mixed with Turning Page, you might remember it, is that Cry Love, both these songs have this, but I'm just going to start with Cry Love. It's in 3/4, but all the instruments are playing it as if it were 4/4. It sounds like a straight 4/4. But it's actually in 3/4. And the chord progression is one of the most common in all the music. 1, 5, minor 6, 4, which in this case is B flat, F, G minor, E flat. Now, if you haven't seen it already, look up Axis of Awesome. They did a track called 4 Chords where they combined all of the songs that use these. But what John Hiatt does, and what Jennie Abrahamson does as well in her song, though she does a little differently, which we'll look at in a moment, is since it's in 3/4, rather than have 2 beats on each of these chords, he cuts off the second beat of the second and fourth chord, which destabilizes the harmonic rhythm and takes this chord progression that's incredibly familiar and makes it unfamiliar, and thus keeps us interested. And it sounds like this. 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1. And Cry Love just maintains that progression through the whole song. Now, just to refresh your memory in case it's been a long time since you've seen the previous episode that used the song, and it probably has because it's been 2 years, or if you never saw it, I'm just going to do a verse and chorus of Cry Love, and this is actually the second verse just because it's easier. It's a long story, but trust me, it's easier. Had the trust of a woman in his hand, but he was a little boy, not a man. He loved him stronger than he could feel, yet he was wrapped up in himself like an orange peel. So what you gonna do? The booze and the blush. What you gonna do? But there's no rush. You cop a little misery at the corner store, till one day that train of pain don't stop no more. So cry love, the tears of an angel, tears of a dove, spilling all over your heart from above. Cry love, cry love. As you can see, it maintains this progression that's very simple, but the unstable harmonic rhythm gives it motion, and it keeps us moving forward and keeps it interesting. I can't sing John Hiatt songs without slipping into a John Hiatt accent, if you will. So anyway, so that's John Hiatt's Cry Love. Now, the song A Better by Jennie Abrahamson is off her album The Sound of Your Beating Heart, which I want to say came out in 2012. I discovered her music when I saw her open for Peter Gabriel, who, of course, as anyone who knows me knows, is one of my ultimate heroes. And so she was the opening act, and I was immediately impressed. And this album it's probably my favorite album of hers, and I hugely recommend checking it out. And this song caught my ear for 2 reasons. The first was that it utilizes that same 3/4 but sounding as 4/4 unstable harmonic rhythm. And I was like, hey, that's the same thing Cry Love does. But there was something else about it. As I was listening to it, I was like, wait a minute. I hear an instrument in there. It's a plucked string instrument, but that can't possibly be what I think it is, can it? Because it sounded like a charango, which is a South American folk instrument. It's like a small, it's like somewhere between a mandolin, a ukulele, and a small guitar. It's 10 strings. And like, some of you may know this, some of you may not. I played with a Peruvian folk group for a little while when I was a kid. It's a really long story. But, you know, I was the one little white kid playing pan flutes with all these big, you know, legendary Peruvian musicians. But so I developed an ear for Peruvian music and, you know, and the sound of a charango. It's a pretty distinctive sound. So I heard it, it's like, wait, could that really be a charango? But it wouldn't make sense. It's a South American folk instrument. Why would it be in a Swedish pop artist's album? But I sent a tweet to Jennie Abrahamson, and I said, odd question. The instrument on your song A Better, that's not a charango, is it? And she sent a tweet back and said, well spotted, it is in fact a charango, which I thought was just incredible because, you know, different parts of, you know, worlds colliding, if you will, different musical interests of mine converging, which I always like when that happens. And there's another reason that's a little funny, which I'll tell you about at the end of the episode, but let's get down to business for now. So, like I said, since I didn't want to sing an octave down, I'm going to sing it main octave. It's just a full step down from the original. So there's going to be a bit of falsetto and such because obviously, you know, this is meant to be sung by a woman in this range, which I personally am not. So, but the main riff or turnaround of the song, if you will, is this same rhythmic pattern, although it doesn't use all 4 chords. It just holds on the 6 minor for 3 beats. 1, 2, 3, and then on the last one before the verse, it goes to the 4 chord directly. And then this is a verse chorus.
Stay here before you're doing good. Nothing can bring you down. Nothing is said, it's understood. Trying to see through the frown. If it ain't right, if it ain't wrong, who am I to say? If it ain't right, if it ain't wrong, the kind of game you play. But sing me another song. Sing me a better song. Better.
So you can see how this pattern is similar. It just doesn't go to that chord every time. But it utilizes the same trick. And of course, in the verse, and especially the pre-chorus, it actually gets out of that, and it sounds much more like a 3/4 or a 6/8 song. So, but I find it fascinating that these two songs, you know, shared this trait. And I wanted to put them together, and as I mentioned earlier, you know, it took me a few tries to figure out how to do it. But it's actually fairly simple in terms of the songs themselves. The key was the difficult part. But both these songs essentially have turnarounds that do this. Now, I like to do Cry Love first because it's a little simpler. And so I like to get through that and then go into the more advanced song, because you know, if you do the more complex song first and then do a simple one, you know, you're running 6 minutes, 7 minutes in, and you know, you want to still be doing fresh things, which is not to say that Cry Love is not a fresh and interesting song, but when you have one song that changes things up and one that doesn't, you know, if all other things are equal, I personally recommend starting with the simpler one. So you would have the last chorus.
Cry love, tears of an angel, the tears of a dove, spilling all over your heart from above. Cry love.
And Cry Love actually goes double time in the last chorus.
Cry love,
but I'm actually going to hold off on that for reasons that will become apparent, because you want to come back to this turnaround.
Cry love.
And what I'm doing in the right hand is actually the charango part, oddly enough, of a better. But it works over the 4-chord progression of Cry Love. So you can do that a couple times before eventually cutting out that 4th chord.
Stay here before you're doing good. Nothing can bring you down.
And there you go, because the turnarounds are very similar. You utilize that, and because, you know, the first 3 chords are the same, it's just the presence or absence of the 4th. The melodic charango part works over that progression, so you can just blend the two pretty seamlessly. And then at the very end, a better ends with that vocal tag, I guess you could call it. I actually there's a word for what this is, and I just unfortunately don't remember it. But there's a number of voices doing it. And it just kind of ends there. But you really don't have to do that. If you can if you want, or you can go back into Cry Love, and that's what I like to do, because I personally like segues that work both ways. And especially because we never did that double time outro to Cry Love, and I like to include everything of the songs if possible. So, over that vocal soundscape in the original track, Jennie Abrahamson is also singing the words of the actual chorus. You know,
sing me a better song. Sing me a better song. Tell me a better lie.
And you can use one of those tags to get you out of the vocal loop and just keep doing this turnaround. And then eventually you could just add that fourth chord in there. Then
Cry love, the tears of an angel, tears of a dove, springing all over your heart from above.
and there you have it. Two very unique songs that are both very good listens. I recommend checking both of them out. Cry Love is on the album Walk On by John Hiatt, and A Better is on The Sound of Your Beating Heart by Jennie Abrahamson. One last funny little coincidence story, and I mentioned there was another reason it was kind of funny that there was a charango on A Better, because but when I heard that song and really started listening to it, I had recently recorded, pretty much just for fun, a cover of Cry Love, and you can find it on my SoundCloud page. Honestly, it's one of the things I'm most proud of that I've done. And a mandolin features very prominently in the original, and my dad plays mandolin, and he plays it very well, so I wanted to get him to play mandolin on it. But his style of playing is different than the guy whose name I don't know, who played the mandolin on John Hiatt's one, so it was a little less forceful and out front, so I wanted another layer to back it up. And so I used whatever I had lying around the music room, guitars, and wouldn't you know it, my old charango, which I had brought out for the first time in years to record a part for that. So I thought it was an amazing coincidence that a song that reminded me so much of Cry Love would use a charango when I had used a charango in my cover of Cry Love. So just a fun little coincidence, shows you, it's a small world after all, if you want to go there. But in any event, man, it feels so good to be doing these Segue episodes again, and look forward to more. I certainly am. Hopefully you've enjoyed watching, hopefully you've learned something, and hopefully I'll see you again next time. Thanks as always.